Hello, beautiful day, as it seems to be lately, pretty much everywhere I think. A lot of rain. You know what, I was on the East Coast for the first time in a lot of years. I was there over Canada Day, and I missed thunder. We don't have thunder on the West Coast, believe it or not. I know it sounds really, oh, he's got thunder. We really don't. So that was kind of a cool thing. Heard a lot of thunder, a lot of thunderstorms. Beautiful day. If you're watching this, you probably know why. You're watching the announcement for Dave's Picks Volume 23, which is from Eugene, Oregon, January 22nd, 1978. And I guess pause you right here. I'm going to pause myself right here. If you're interested in getting this and you're watching this, I would suggest putting this on pause right now and going to buy it and then come back and watch the rest of it, or not. I don't really care. I mean, I do. I love having you here. But if you have better things to do with your day than watch me, I understand. But they've been selling out lately in 18 hours, 12, 11 hours. Like, it's crazy. So put it on pause, order it, or maybe just put me in the background so you don't have to watch me. You just hear me chattering away. Dave's Picks, Volume 23, Eugene, Oregon, January 22nd, 1978. This is a big show. A lot of people, myself sometimes included, I kind of vacillate between it sometimes. A lot of people consider this the best show of 1978, and it's certainly in my top 3 of 1978, and on certain days over the years as I've listened to it, it has been. The problem with this show for me, in the past, not now, is that I'd never heard a really good copy of it. I'd heard a good copy of the Terrapin Station Onward, but I'd never really heard a good copy of the first set, and I'd never heard a good copy of the beginning of the second set. Now that I have, because this is all from the Betty Cantor Jackson recordings, the master reels, oh, you know what? I'll post some of these on Twitter. If you're on the Twitter thing, go to Twitter and look me up under Lemieux David. It's my last name and my first name. And I'm going to put some pictures of the reels, of Jeffrey mastering, of stuff like that. So do check that out for sure. But anyhow, so, God, there's a lot to talk about with this one. This is a very famous show. Get out of the way, widely considered the Close Encounters show. You know, Deadheads have names for certain shows. Cornell, which is the venue, Harper College is the venue. Mostly venue related, but sometimes a show is referred to by something that happened at the show. And this one is the Close Encounters show. Going back to my tape trading days in the mid-1980s, I had a copy of the second set jam, the Terrapin Station, through Around and Around. I didn't have the encore, I didn't have the beginning of the second set, and I didn't have the first set. Over the years, as I've become more and more curious about this show, I've listened to mediocre first sets, mediocre beginning of the second sets, kind of choppy second set jams. When we reacquired the Betty Cantor Jackson recordings, the reels, a lot of them, this was one of them. And I didn't know that. I knew what was in this batch of tapes. I knew that Cornell and all that May stuff from 77. I knew there was some fall 78. I knew there was some spring 78. Or sorry, fall 77. Not fall 78. Fall 77. I knew there was some summer 76. I knew there was some spring 78. But the one show that I didn't know was in here, especially not in its entirety, was Eugene, Oregon, 12278. And when I saw that, again, a lot of people consider this the best show of 1978, which is saying a lot. I do consider that sometimes. So top 3, I've got some other 78s that I really do love. But when these tapes came home, we kind of had lists of things that we knew that sooner or later we'd get to. This was certainly one of them. The Cornell, obviously. There's a couple other big surprises in that batch that I didn't know were in there that are now kind of on the list of things. Not imminent, they're not coming next or anything, but they'll get out sometime for sure. Okay, Eugene, Oregon, 12278. Bit of context. The Dead hadn't played Eugene in, well, about 6 years since the Veneta show, which isn't really Eugene, it's outside of Eugene, but Eugene proper, it had been a long time since the Dead had played Eugene. So here they return at the end of a really interesting tour. January 78, they did a tour of California minus the Bay Area. So they did New Year's, of course, at the Winterland, the 4-night run, 27, 29, 30, 31 of December at Winterland in 77. And then almost immediately, a week later, they did a tour of California, Southern California, San Diego, LA, Bakersfield, all these, Stockton. they did all those places. And then the tour ended on January 18th. And remember, early in this tour, if you're a tape trader or you're a listener to this stuff, you'll remember that Jerry completely lost his voice at the beginning of the tour. They did an entire show with no Jerry songs, all Bobby songs, and Donna. I think there was a Donna song in there. But it was all Bobby and Donna doing the vocals because Jerry's voice was gone. If you've listened to Dick's Picks Volume 18, which is from a week after this Eugene show, February 3rd and 5th of '78, Jerry's voice is still a little raw. You're going to hear that here. Not a big deal. Where I hear it at the beginning is in Dire Wolf. His voice actually does seem to get stronger as the show goes on. But nonetheless, so it's a really interesting tour. And then just a few weeks before the Eugene show, they announced the Eugene show. It wasn't like now when they announce a tour or a show 6 months out. They announced the Eugene show just a few weeks beforehand. And again, I know it seems like I'm bouncing all over the place, and I'm at least not distracted by birds and animals and paddle boarders. And there's actually, there's fishermen out there too. What was I going on about? The show, and oh yeah, so this is a show for which, and it happens sometimes, where the archive is filled with materials, newspaper reviews, photos. We worked directly with our good friend Bruce Polonsky on photos. We've got liner notes by Jesse Jarno, terrific liner notes, wonderful cover art as always. And we have an archival batch of things in here that is probably the biggest archival treasure trove of any of the Dave's Picks so far. We always like to include as much as possible. Sometimes we don't have that much. We have the gig contract. We have the hotel rooming list, which is hilarious. We have, I think, rental car slips. We have all this stuff, and you get to see when did the band come in, where did they stay. If that hotel is still there, it'd be interesting to go back to that hotel and request room number or whatever and stay in the room that Jerry or Phil or any of those guys stayed in. But in the newspaper reviews, glowing. Oftentimes at this time, if a newspaper reviewer didn't get the Dead and they went to see the Dead in 76, 77, 78, oftentimes they would talk about how boring it was or how if they just didn't get it. But these newspaper reviews in here, I think we got a couple, are spectacular. They're terrific newspaper reviews. They talk about it was the loudest show ever at MacArthur Court in Eugene. It was the best show. It was the clearest sound. The band was animated, really, and they are. You see the pictures in here by Bruce Polonsky. And boy, the band is like, they're into it. You can really, just by photos, you can see how into it they are. So the show itself, so much to talk about. Close Encounters kind of speaks for itself, which is just, it's really just a few seconds, but it's very distinct. And I can't really think of an example, but if you saw a current movie that was the biggest movie in the world and it had a certain theme song right now and you were in theaters, and then you went to see the Dead a week later after seeing this movie and you've got these 5 notes in your head, and you go see the Dead, and in this unbelievable scene, Grateful Dead sold out MacArthur Court, Eugene, Oregon, Jerry alone on stage, and he starts belting out with this incredible tone, the Close Encounters, the 5 notes, like talking to the aliens, I guess. The show itself, magnificent. The first set, this is what I was saying earlier, that I won't say I didn't pay attention to the first set, I just never heard a good copy until now, and it's a good copy. It sounds amazing. Jeffrey kept emailing me and texting me during the process, like, dude, this is a great show. And I love when Jeffrey asks this, why didn't we release this one earlier? And I love being able to tell him because we didn't have it, or whatever the case is. I love when Jeffrey gets enthusiastic, because Jeffrey, make no mistake, Jeffrey is a Deadhead. But when he's working on this material, he's also an engineer, a technician, an artist, where he is in the sound quality. That's what he's working on. But sometimes I think, based on his texts and emails and phone calls, I think Jeffrey gets a little overwhelmed by how good it is sometimes, the music. Not that he's surprised, but it just kind of takes him out of that side. And he's like, wow, this is really good. And I love when I get those. Jeffrey, if you're watching this, I really do appreciate those. And I'm sure the band does too, because we know that at that moment, your first and foremost responsibility is making it sound good, which you do. It sounds great. But when the music becomes at the forefront for you, I love that. I got a lot of those during this. So the first set, a lot of good music. There's a Minglewood, Dire Wolf. There is there's a great Cassidy early in the set, the third song. There's a Peggy-O that's really good. I'm going to get to some highlights. I'm just kind of listing songs. There's an El Paso after the Peggy-O. Then to me, the heart of the second set happens after the El Paso. There's a Tennessee Jed and there's a jackstraw. And both of those are, to me, the whole first set is magnificent. Those songs are kind of definitive versions to me. They're the songs that if somebody said, hey, can you give me a good Tennessee Jed from the 76 to 78 era? Can you give me a good jackstraw? These are the two that I would give them, seriously. They're that great. Then we get a Road Jimmy after the jackstraw, and the Road Jimmy, it's really good, but the end of it is unlike any other Road Jimmy I've ever heard. It's so powerful, like they are blowing the roof off the place. And you know, Road Jimmy, I love Road Jimmy, I love it. But I would almost put it in the ballad category sometimes. It's kind of the lower tempo song. By the end of this one, listen to it loudly, the Road Jimmy, the ending, it's become like a powerful rock and roll number by the end of it. It's incredible, really wonderful. And then we end it with The Music Never Stopped. And there's not a lot to say about This Music Never Stopped, except it's from 1978. And to me, the best versions of The Music Never Stopped were in the first half of 1978. There were great ones in 76, which were very similar to the album version on Blues for Allah. 77, I thought it became a bigger powerhouse, but there's something about the 78 versions from January through April, May. Those to me, that's the peak of The Music Never Stopped. In the history of Music Never Stopped, that to me is where it was like, wow. And anyhow, so that's what I say, that if I seem like I'm kind of dismissing The Music Never Stopped, I'm not. It's typical for 78, which is to say it's one of the best versions you're ever going to hear. First set, exhausting, wonderful. Second set, probably one of the best second sets of 1978, if not the best. It opens up typically with a couple of the shorter songs. So we got a Bertha Good Lovin', Ship of Fools, and Samson and Delilah, all of which are played great. Listen to the Ship of Fools, which again is one of those songs that, like Road Jimmy, sometimes it's a lower tempoed song, and so sometimes it's just there. Just play it, it's done, move on to the next song. And I love Ship of Fools, especially when it's played to this level, and it's one of those Ship of Fools. Samson and Delilah, typically hot for this era, incredible Samson and Delilah. But then the second set jam, it's about an hour long, and it's one of those ones that you can listen to if you have headphones, if you have good headphones. You could listen to the second set straight through the jam from Terrapin to the end 10 times in a row, well, in a few days, and you will get something completely different out of every time you listen and out of every song in there. So we have Terrapin Station, which again, it's a pretty good Terrapin Station, but by the end of it, in particular, I'm going to point out Phil at the end of it, during the kind of the orchestrated ending of Terrapin Station, you know, after the vocals, the melody, the theme they do. Listen to Phil's tone and the clarity of tone. So you get good bottom end on it, but what you particularly get is the clarity of each note that Phil's playing. I can't imagine having been there, and the volume of the sound and the clarity of it. It's really remarkable. So we get Terrapin Station, goes into a nice drums, little drum duet, that then goes into one of the big, powerful 1978, typical of 78, other one rumbling intros for the other one. And it's a long other one. It goes, if you include the closing counters, which is only a couple minutes at the end, the space that Jerry does, it's about a 16 or 17 minute version of the other one. And it's really good. It hits everything you'd want from the other one. It's got incredible power, typical of early 78. It's got a lot of space. It's got a lot of psychedelic. It kind of veers off a little bit and goes all over. And by the end of it, it's just a mind blower. And then it goes into the space that is just Jerry. You hear a little bit of percussion, but then it kind of drops out. It's just Jerry, which he did a couple of times in 78, not often. Just Jerry on stage alone, making these incredible space sounds that then goes into the closing counters theme, which if you'd just seen the movie, which I think it came out at the end of 77, maybe November, December, so it had just come out a month earlier. So you go see this movie, it's the biggest movie in theaters right now in early 78, and for somebody who's interested in space, as Deadheads might be, they talk to the aliens with these 5 notes, and the aliens talk back. And that's what Jerry played. It's really, wow. That goes into probably the coolest intro to St. Stephen the Dead ever played. It's not the regular intro. He goes right into the melody of the song, and it is unlike anything you've ever heard. And it's raunchy, and it's loud, and it's powerful, and it's like I don't want to say a punch to the gut because that sounds negative. It's not negative. It's very positive. It's this incredible moment of St. Stephen. St. Stephen, great version, goes into a long, I think 15-minute version of Not Fade Away. Again, it's one of those Not Fade Aways that hits the powerful stuff. It's got really good jamming. It's got some great Jerry solos. It's got great vocals, everything about it. And then more rock and roll, because you can never have enough rock and roll with this band, Around and Around. And it's one of those around ones, they bring it right down, and then they bring it right back up and they blow the roof off the place again with an encore of US blues. I'm exhausted thinking about it. I know this show, I've always known this show well, particularly the second set, but in the last 4 months, I've known it like the back of my hand, and I will never get sick of this show. It's really good. Eugene, Oregon, January 22nd, 78. If you were a tape trader 30 years ago, you probably had a chunk of this show. You might have had the whole thing, but not in this quality, but you probably had the Terrapin Onward jam, so you know how good it is. The rest of the show is just as good. It is truly one of the best shows in 1978. Available right now, Dave's Picks Volume 23. It is available only at dead.net. It will sell out quickly. I hope that you paused this early on and went to buy it, because I think the last Dave's Picks sold out in 11 hours or something, 11 or 13. It was like ridiculously, amazingly fast. So do check it out. What's the other thing to talk? Oh yeah, so booklet, fantastic. I think it's a 16-page. Lots of archival stuff. Great photos by Bruce Polanski. Santa Cruz had wonderful things that they provided to us, and Jesse Jarno wrote incredible liner notes, as he always does. Jesse's, you know, I met Jesse in San Jose at the Grateful Dead conference a couple of years ago, and I've heard the name many times in the Grateful Dead world, and he is really an exceptional writer, and we're lucky to have him as part of the team now to help us out on research and writing and all this kind of stuff. So Jesse, you've done a great job again. Cover art, wonderful stuff. Did I mention Bruce Polanski's photos? Wow, they are some of the best photos of the band I've ever seen from this era, partly because Bruce is so good, partly his sightlines, partly the band is so animated. You'll see this band going absolutely nuts. And what else can I tell you about this? That's about it. Oh, and it sounds incredible. Jeffrey Norman, once again, did it again. So everything about this show is exceptional, and I do recommend you get it. We've started working on Dave's Picks Volume 24, which we'll have an announcement probably in October or whenever we do that, I don't know. But other good things coming up, so stay tuned. We've got a good rest of 2017 coming. Looking ahead to 2018, I think it's going to be an even better year. I haven't planned anything specific, but the ideas that I've kind of started sorting out in terms of possible releases, ideas, types of projects, it's really going to be another great year. I'm as excited as I am about 2018 as I was this year and last year, maybe even more so because of a couple of the ideas that we're kind of tossing around. Thank you for watching. I'm Dave Lemieux. This was a Dave's Picks 23 special, and we've got lots more stuff coming up. Head over to dead.net unless you're already there. Pick it up because it will go pretty soon. Thanks for listening. Sorry it's a long one. Hopefully the waves weren't too bad. I don't think so. No wind, which is great. And we'll see you around. Thanks for listening.